Come on, David, you're on.
We're just waiting for it to go to start up. And then I'll handle the first agenda item. Here we are. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Committee of Colchester Borough Council. The first item on the agenda this evening is the appointment of a chair for the forthcoming municipal year. Councillors, can I have a nomination, please?
Can I propose Councillor Dave Harris?
Yep, thank you, Councillor Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Yep, thank you. Are there any other nominations? Okay, I see no indications. If we could take a vote on that, Councillor Harris is proposed. I'll call your names in alphabetical order, and would you just please indicate for or against? So, Councillor Barton.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Buston.
For.
Thanks. Councillor Chua. Thank you. Councillor Crowe.
For.
Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Harris.
For.
Councillor Hogg.
For.
Councillor Moore.
For.
Councillor Oxford.
For.
Councillor Wood.
For.
And Councillor Young.
For.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Congratulations, Councillor Harris. You are the chair for the forthcoming municipal year, and I will hand over the meeting to you.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and good evening all. My first job before I do the welcome announcements is obviously to have an election of a vice chair. So could I invite nominations for vice chair of the municipal year for the licensing committee, please? Could I propose Mike Hogg?
Is there a second?
Seconded,
Yes,
please?
second.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. And again, could we go, are there any more nominations for vice chair? No. Could you conduct the vote, please, Matthew?
Yeah, certainly. So, same again, please, councillors. Councillor Barton.
For.
Councillor Buston.
For.
Councillor Chua. Thank you. Councillor Crowe.
For.
Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Harris.
For.
Councillor Hogg.
For.
Councillor Moore.
For.
Councillor Oxford.
For.
Councillor Wood.
For.
And Councillor Young.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and welcome, councillors. Welcome to this online meeting, Wednesday, 10th of June. I'm Councillor Dave Harris. I'm councillor for the Beerchurch ward, and I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. This meeting, as you've already heard, is being broadcast live via Zoom over the internet and on the council's own YouTube channel, and we'll be also available to watch afterwards. So welcome to those people who want to watch now or watch afterwards. To begin with, there are a few matters of housekeeping, and with the exception of the Democratic Services Officer who advising us, would participants all please mute their microphones unless they are invited to speak. I will ask for each item of business to be presented and then ask each member of the panel .
Councillor Harris, you've gone on mute.
Thank you. At the end of each item of business, I'll ask each panel member to confirm audibly how they wish to vote in the way you've just heard. We may break at 7:30, subject to the progress of the business. And could I therefore ask each participant in turn to confirm their name tonight and that they understand the procedures for the meeting? And if you could do it in alphabetical order. Could we call out their names in alphabetical order again, Matthew?
Yeah, certainly, Chairman. So, Councillor Barton. Okay.
Yes, Councillor Lynn Barton, Shrub End Ward, and yes, understood.
Councillor Buston.
Councillor Roger Buston, Prettygate, understood. Thank you.
Councillor Chua.
Councillor Helen Chua, St. Anne's and St. John's Ward. Thank you, understood.
Councillor Crowe.
Councillor Simon Crowe, Castle Ward.
Councillor Elliott.
Councillor Elliott, Tiptree Ward, understands.
Councillor Hogg,
Councillor Mike Hogg, St Anne's and St John's, understood.
Councillor Moore,
Councillor Patricia Moore, Mersey and Pyfleet, understood.
Councillor Oxford,
Councillor Bev Oxford, Highwoods Ward, understood.
thank you. Councillor Wood, Councillor Wood. Chair, we'll come back to Councillor Wood. Can I ask Councillor Young just to confirm?
Councillor Tim Young, Greenstead Ward, yeah, all good.
Thank you.
Chairman, we seem to have lost Councillor Wood. Are you all right to proceed, or do you want to pause for?
Can we
minutes.
pause for a couple of seconds to try and get her back in? Is that okay?
Okay.
Welcome again.
Muted at the moment, Councillor Wood. Ah, there we are.
Sorry, bad connection. It's Councillor Barbara Wood, Tiptree Ward, and
Thank you
I
very much.
understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. So having said that, my next job is item 4 is any substitutions. I don't think there are any substitutions tonight. Matthew,
No substitutions.
We're good to go on that one.
Yep.
Item 5, urgent items. I have no urgent items that are scheduled for tonight's meeting. Item 6 is over to you, councillors, to declare any interests of any of the items that are on the agenda for tonight and to publicly announce the item number, whether this interest is disclosable or pecuniary. I have no indications, is that correct? Thank you. Item 7 is to invite the committee to confirm as a correct record of the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of January 2020, seems an eon ago now, and ask each member in turn to agree the minutes of the previous meeting and to call out the participant's name and wait for them to speak and confirm before we move on to the next participant, please, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We'll just run through this quickly. Councillors, please. Barton,
I think I was not at the meeting. I was in Tenerife.
okay. Councillor Buston,
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chua. Is that okay? Yes. Councillor Crowe,
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Elliott,
I wasn't at the meeting either.
Councillor Harris,
Agreed.
Councillor Hogg,
Agreed.
Councillor Moore,
Agreed.
Councillor Oxford,
I wasn't in the meeting either.
Okay.
Councillor Wood. No, you weren't there. No, true. Councillor Young,
Agreed.
thank you.
Okay,
That's
I'll have to
unanimous, Chair.
find those minutes at some other time then, Matthew, because I don't know whether you post them out or how they go with this via Democratic Services. Do I have to sign remotely or?
Yes, we'll deal with that after the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, on to the next item then, which is item 8, members, which is have your say. And although we've advertised before the meeting, no speakers have given any notice that they wish to speak at the committee this evening. Okay. Item 9, the CCTV in licensed vehicles policy consultation extension. I invite John Ruder to present the report, please.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, all councillors. Nice to see you all again after quite a long time. All this is obviously the CCTV consultation was meant to be finished at the end of May and was meant to come to you as a report in June. But obviously, due to the circumstances of COVID-19, we requested with the agreement to extend the actual consultation period until the 12th of June. It's just to get you to confirm that we've done this, and if you're happy for it. There's not much else to say. The good news is we have had some feedback, and we've had more representations, although not necessarily in favour of CCTV, but the fact is we have had some, so that's good. It's due to close, I believe, in 2 days' time.
Members, over to you for any questions. Nobody indicating? Item 2.1, therefore, Matthew, is for us to agree and note, as per the recommendation, and note the report by John Ruder. Do we have to go through the voting procedure again, Matthew?
I don't believe so, Chair. There's a proposal for this report to be noted if all members are happy that be the case.
So move.
Thank you. A seconder? Okay, any seconder?
Councillor Hogg, Councillor Chua.
Thank you very much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
agreed. Seconded.
Thank you very much, everybody. Which brings us on to item 10. John Ruder, you're on again. It's the draft scrap metal dealers policy.
Again, this was obviously, we had to renew the licensing policy for the next few years, and obviously we did the usual consultation and report, and no one came back with anything, so there was no representations. So it's just to say, you accept it and put it forward and agree it, and then it will become actionable. That's pretty much it on this one. There's not much to say about it other than that it's raring to go.
Thank you, John. Members, anybody want to raise their hand and have a say on this one?
Councillor Hogg is indicating.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hogg.
Okay, Chairman. Could I first of all say how pleased I am to see such a very comprehensive document in front of us, and congratulations and thank you for all the hard work that the officers have put in to produce it. I do have a question though with regards to the travelling community and Eastern European traders as to whether this consultation document and which will eventually be our policy does apply to them, or do they stand outside of the policy? As we're all aware that our large housing estates in the summertime will see the Eastern European white van man going around, and on numerous occasions in recent history, the travelling community have pitched up on various sites to carry out trading. Does this policy that we're going to agree take in those individuals, or do they stand outside the policy, and is it like a criminal law investigation? Thank you.
No one stands outside the law. The law is law in relation to scrap metal. Therefore, if you wish to collect scrap metal, you need to be licensed. If you wish to process it, you need to be licensed. So no group stands outside the law. There is obviously, if businesses come in and proceed to act in a legal fashion, then it's a case that we have to catch them, generally along with the police assistance in that matter. But there is also reliance on the public to make sure that they check the details of those people picking up the waste, and making sure that those people are actually licensed. And if they're not, they should not be trading with them. You're not allowed to pay cash in hand. You can only pay by card payments. So there should be a audit trail of who's paid for what, and we should and are allowed to go onto sites or check collectors to see that they have an audit trail of their work. Like I said, it's a case of those who are acting outside the law, one, I need to know about, and two, I need to be able to investigate it.
Any other questions? Just to comment, John, on the on Councillor Hogg's point, as far as I understand, it's a 2013 Act, isn't it, that kicked us into being here. Although we've got a policy, there is an Act of Parliament on it that requires us to have site licenses and collectors licenses. How many do we know? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, John. Do you know how many licenses of each we have in Colchester?
we recently did an audit, and I believe, and I might be wrong on this because it's quite there's a lot happened since I did this check, between 6 and 8 sites, and I believe roughly the same between 8, possibly maybe more, a few more than 8 collectors. Without actually going on the system, I won't be able to find it straight away, but we do have a number of them. I would say in the grand scheme of things, we generally don't have as many issues out this way as, say, Basildon and places like that do on the outer rims of London. But that's not to say that we don't get intel and feedback through the process that people are travelling across county. If there are issues, we do get warnings. As I am the chairman of the licensing forum for Essex, we have feedback on scrap metal as well as taxis and all the other licensing, so we always share information between councils when it comes to anything going on. So yeah, that's I mean, I'll find out the exact number for you, but probably not tonight at the moment.
Any other hands raised anywhere? Anybody want to speak? Oh yes,
Councillor Buston. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. John, if I may, looking through the policy, there didn't appear to be a great number of particularly singular amendments. From your perspective on this, are there any things that you would like to draw to our attention that are particularly, as I would say, new for us to need to look at and be aware of in case we may face questions in regard to it? Thank you.
In all truthfulness, no, there's nothing of great change to it. It is very similar to the last one. It's just been tidied up and made sure it reads a lot easier than it did, because it is it's quite a document to read, is what I'll say. But there's nothing there that you should worry about.
One final question for me, John, is a license lasts 3 years, as I understand it, for a scrap dealer's license, a collector's license. Do we review this policy every so often? Do we review it every 3 years or so, or do we just sit it there and use it when we require it?
Yeah, it's reviewed every 3 years. So we have to anyway in the policy and stuff like that. And we also, within the time that they have the licenses, we need to go and inspect their premises or their collector's license to make sure they're operating accordingly. And Kate and Karen have done some in the latter part of last year. So we do go and check.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the words of Councillor Hogg, the chairman, the vice chair, about the quality of work. Thank you for the work you've done on this. So can we go to the vote now, Matthew, unless anybody else?
I've got my hand up, and so is Councillor Moore.
Thank you.
Councillor Moore and Councillor Young.
Didn't see that. Apologies.
Councillor Moore indicated first, Chair.
Yeah, this is in response to the Scrap Metal Dealers Act of 2013. It's been running now 7 years. Do we have any evidence that it has reduced the amount of theft and skullduggery?
We do have evidence to show that it has across the county and country reduced, because they took away the whole issue of being able to pay by cash, and you have to audit where your metal goes. There's less chance of various things being stolen. I mean, the big issue was obviously church roofs was a lot of a big issue, as was the railways. But obviously the traffic police, transport police, sorry, have access to this data, and if they need to, we work with them if there is any issues. We did recently check a site in Colchester, as we had a tip-off that they had cabling that was taken illegally from a certain railway depot in the borough, but it wasn't that case at all. But the fact is, we do get that sort of intel, and we do check it.
May I come back on that?
Please.
What about if something has been stolen or bought illegally, what is to stop them exporting it, taking it over the continent?
The truth is, there is that will go on irrespective of whether we have the legislation in place or not and the policies. We do, we make every effort to investigate any complaints we receive and deal with them accordingly. There is a trade that will leave in containers and go out of various ports and stuff abroad, and that then would fall to the Port Health Authority anyway, and they would be acting with the police in order to get tips off on that. It is there to try and stop most things. We're not going to be able to stop everything.
Okay. Thank you very much, John. Councillor Tim Young.
Thank you, Chair. Just to go back to Councillor Hogg's point, he did mention a specific ethnic group. So I'd like to ask John if there is any evidence of ethnic groups of any kind trying to get around the law, get around this policy, or is that just hearsay and potentially, identifying one set of people, whereas I understand that, if there are thefts from railway lines and church roofs, most of the criminal convictions are from British nationals. So have we got any evidence about that, or is it wrong to single out the group that Councillor Hogg did?
If I was to be honest with you, I don't pay attention to any of the groups as they're put in relation to offences. My job is to investigate an offence. I don't really look at who they are. It's a case, if someone's broken the law, then my job is to go out and look. And if someone has broken the law accordingly, then I will act accordingly. I'm afraid I don't pay attention to those groups.
Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Chairman. Mine was purely a question of clarification, because nowhere within the document does it mention Eastern European or to the travelling community. And my question was purely and simply to make sure, and the correct answer was, as Mr. Ruder gave, that nobody is outside of the policy. So the answer is they are included in the policy. That's purely and simply the reason for asking it.
Okay, I've got no other speakers indicating.
No, none.
Okay, so the report is under 2.1 is for us to adopt under 2.1 there, that the approved and be recommended to full council for adoption as part of the council statutory framework.
Proposed.
Thank you. Seconder?
Yes, seconded.
Thank you. Can we go through the vote, please, Matthew?
Yep, certainly. So Councillor Barton.
Yeah, agreed.
Councillor Buston.
For.
Councillor Chua. Councillor Crowe.
For.
Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Harris.
For.
Councillor Hogg.
For.
Councillor Moore.
For.
Councillor Oxford.
For.
Councillor Wood.
For.
And Councillor Young.
For.
Thank you, and that's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and thank you, members. On to the next item on the agenda, which is item 11. I'm going to hand over to invite Matthew Evans to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members will be familiar with this report. It's simply setting out the proposed work programme for your forthcoming municipal year. There are fairly standard items on there. These are subject to change as and when workflow changes. The only thing I draw to your attention at this time is just to confirm that the meeting of this committee, which was scheduled for 22nd of July, has been moved to the 11th of August, and all the business will be carried forward to that meeting. And otherwise, that's all I have on this, Chair. Thank you.
Could we have a repeat of the date for August, please?
Yes, the committee meeting has been scheduled for the 11th.
Thank you.
Members, is there any comments on any of that? No hands have gone up. The question I want to ask is the Licensing Act, Matthew, is going to be reviewed. Yes. And it will go to council on the 3rd of December. And I guess that's something that a body of work that the council officers will have to do between now and September to put that report to us. Is there a lot of work in there, or is just business as usual for you, John and Sarah?
I can't speak for Sarah, but well, I can speak for Sarah. Actually, that's a very silly thing to say. Sarah is doing an enamourate amount of work on it because we're trying to get a lot of evidence now with regards to what are the general causes of events that happen in the nighttime economy and include the daytime economy. And we have got a very good contact in relation to hospital data now, as well as the ambulance data. And we're currently in the process of looking through that data to see what the what issues there are. We've recently contacted the police, and the police are currently also working on giving us data in relation to crime statistics, and that will obviously influence our policy. We're also updating the matrix in relation to what's included within the policy because it's slightly outdated, and obviously we need to include some businesses that we didn't include in the last one. I would invite Sarah to come in and say and just bring up to date if there's anything I've missed in relation to this.
Thank you, Chairman. There's no, I think John's covered it perfectly. Actually, we've got quite a lot of data come in from key partner agencies. We just need to look at that and see if it tells us anything new or steers the policy in a new direction. And that work's been a little bit delayed by everything that's going on at the moment, but the data is there, so it's just finding time to have a look at that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for all the work you're doing. I've got Councillor Moore has got a hand up. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. We didn't have a matters arising from the minutes. I don't know whether we do normally or not, but there was a question I wanted to ask John Ruder on the caravans and park homes update. Is this an opportunity or not?
What, as in me to answer now? I'm happy to, if the chair is happy with me answering.
Yes, of course.
Yes, the COVID-19 issue has pandemic has exposed a fair number of people living permanently on the caravan sites. I was told something like 85 families on the caravan sites. Could you clarify what is going to happen about that, how it's going to be sorted out?
I have already, obviously, I was dealing with this prior to COVID-19. I also dealt with it during COVID-19. So I have already visited with one of my enforcement officers the sites, and I have the details of all the caravans that are, have residents in. So Away Resorts at Cumnor Grove has residents living there. Fen Farm doesn't. Cooper's Beach does. Wardgraves does, as does West Mersey Holiday Parks, which is formerly Seaview. And I've got the detail. I haven't got details of names because I don't need to know that. And if I did get involved in that, then I would have all problems with data protection. So I know the caravan numbers and places. And at the moment, there's nothing I can do because the law was such under the COVID regulations that those who are at risk can stay there. So there are approximately 85 families in total that I know of living on the sites. Of which I would say around about 15 have a legitimate reason because their houses are abroad, so and they can't travel back. So there are a number of them that are legitimately staying there for the time being. They also now can rent out to high risk people such as NHS staff who can't return home. But I have asked all sites to give me a list of those people who are staying there, so I keep track of it. I have issued a warning letter to Furs Chase. Because I had evidence of people going onto that site, and I've since made sure that site is shut down. Yeah, but once this is over, I'm working with legal. I will be writing to the sites to say that they need to work on removing these people in relation to as their fixed abode. There is an argument, obviously, that they're using their family members to supply the information, which in itself is fraudulent, but that's for the sites to deal with. I have got some work to do with Colchester Borough Homes, because obviously some of these people, there's the homeless discussion that I need to take place as well, because we don't want to inundate the homeless section with people who intentionally, well, could be made in homeless in this situation. So I will keep you up to date as and when the next part happens. I suspect I will be writing my first letter towards the end of July, because obviously they will lift the regulations, I suspect, roundabout just after the 4th of July in relation to sites being allowed to open again.
Could you just clarify what you said about the Furs Chase site? I didn't quite, you said it was a letter of warning, but I didn't quite understand, or there was a letter going to them. Then I didn't quite hear whether you said something about closing the site. Could you just clarify?
So Furs Chase never had anyone on site. And then I received evidence to suggest that people were going on because they wanted to either fix up or spend the day there. The fact of the matter is, you are not allowed to go on caravan sites at the moment unless you were exempt as part of the original COVID regulations, where you were stipulated that you were high risk or you had nowhere else to go because, for example, one family had asbestos being removed from their house and they couldn't return home. So it's reasonable for them to stay there. So I issued a warning letter to the owner of the site saying that he must make sure, because they weren't entering by the main entrance. They were entering by an entrance that has, I didn't know about, if I was to be honest. So I've since made sure that that entrance is also shut and reminded them they can't be on there. And they've since shut the site.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Councillor Moore. So members, we've got the next meeting, the 11th of August, the CCTV consultation, and it will go to full council on the 21st of October, Matthew. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Richard and you and Matthew, I know, and that the full council of October will go ahead virtually.
It will be carried on, Chair. Yes.
Good. Okay, that's cool. So I've got no other business. Has anybody got anything else before we close? Or have we got to adopt? Have we got to adopt the recommendation, Matthew?
What, in the work programme?
Yeah.
That's just for your noting, Chair.
For noting. Okay. That's it. I've got no other business. Nothing else on the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Right.
Good night, everyone.
By 20,000 members of the public.
I'll stop the live stream now, Chair.